Hey there, Space Cadets. CaptainJandor here, bringing you the very first episode of the Grim Axis Reviews. This is another little pet project of mine, similar to Grim Music with CaptainJandor. I don't know whether or not Delthrin will ever appear here, despite it being the Grim Axis presenting, because he doesn't have the necessary software. As a video guy, I decided that since I want to do more reviews for the website, in order to produce extra content for you Space Cadets out there, instead of writing some stuff out, maybe I should make use of the video files and programs and fun stuff that I've got and create something a little more dynamic. So this is sort of an experiment, but the very first episode is going to be about Disturbed's latest album, Asylum. Now, Asylum was released on August 27th, 2010. That was on about a week and a half ago, something like that. And it's their fifth studio album. All right, this follows on the heels of Indestructible, and the other three are Disturbed, Liberate, and 10,000 Fists. As far as where I think it rates in the overall scheme of things, well, I'll let you know when I get to the final verdict. It has 13 tracks. The last track is, on an album anyway, would be kind of a hidden track, like it's got like, the 20 seconds or whatever of silence before it starts, and it's a cover and a pretty hilarious one, which I'll get to momentarily. So that's sort of the basic data about the album, but what we're going to talk about now is the music itself. So my impressions. Overall, this is, these good Disturbed. There's a couple of tracks I'm going to play some samples of for you guys, to give you a sense of what it sounds like. And the very first one is, I think, their first signal. This is Asylum, and let's check it out. Pretty good stuff. Very Disturbed sounding, very, very polished, and I would say that it's a great way to sort of start the album off. I mean, the very first track is called Remnants, which has become kind of commonplace in a lot of rock albums these days. It's sort of an instrumental track that fades up and then leads you into that intro for Asylum. There are a number of other tracks on here that are worth noting. There's Second Signal, which I think you can get on their MySpace page, their homepage, wherever the hell you find them these days on the webernets, is called Another Way to Die. It's pretty good. And then there's a track they have called The Animal, which has this very classic Disturbed intro, that kind of, laughing, dark sort of sounding vocalizations that the lead singer likes to do, similar to how you would start off, oh good lord, I'm blanking on the name, Down with the Sickness, for example. So those three are pretty good, and then you have their sort of hidden track, which I think you would pronounce Ishfluf. It's actually an acronym, and it's for a U2 song that they covered, and it's pretty hilarious and pretty awesome. I mean, I've always liked their covers, back even when they did Shout back on their first album. I thought that was one of my favorite tracks. Otherwise, I don't know. Never Again is another track on this album that is pretty solid, but it kind of has this really sort of hard sound to it, and then it fades into these sort of melodious, kind of singing, soulful moments. And it's about, I guess it's about how we're never going to let somebody attack the country again or something. And they've been getting kind of political since 10,000 Fists. It doesn't necessarily bother me when a band does that, but with the song Never Again, I feel like it's just sort of like, okay, yeah, we get it. We get it, Disturbed. We get it. We all feel this way. This is admirable, but I don't know if I want to listen to it over and over and over again. Still, it's worth checking out. And you have Warrior, which I think is actually the third highest selling on iTunes right now. One of their other singles that I just not a big fan of. So that's kind of the how I feel about the music. Craft-wise, though, overall, this is a very well-mixed album, very polished album. Now, bear in mind, as I say that, I'm not a music guy. I'm not like a huge... I don't do that for a living. So it may well be that those of you out there who are listening to this who do that for a living might feel differently about the mixing, the polished feel of it. But in general, I thought that everything sounds really, really good, and they've really kind of been honing in on their craft over the last few albums. I think moving right into my final verdict, overall, this is a pretty damn good Disturbed album. Which is to say that in the overall grand scheme of things, it's a decent album. You know, Disturbed has never been a top tier band, but they are, for me anyway, but they are very solid. And they're a lot of fun to listen to. They're great for like working out at the gym or for when you're feeling kind of angry or you want to get that sort of inner angsty teenager out. They're a lot of fun to play on Rock Band. You know, so that's always something. And as far as how Asylum rates within the pantheon, so to speak, of Disturbed's albums, I'd say it's good. Like, it's up there. It's up there with Indestructible and 10,000 Fists, which I think are my two favorites. I don't like Liberate very much, despite the couple of solid tracks that are on it. And going back to their first album is kind of painful these days. But as far as this goes, I think there's a lot of good stuff here. If you guys are Disturbed fans, like those Space Cadets out there who like the Disturbed, I recommend picking this up. You guys are going to love it. It's very polished. It's very much kind of refining their style, refining their sound. I think they're starting to really pick up on what they want to sound like overall and are just polishing and perfecting that every album that comes out. However, if you're not a Disturbed fan, I don't know if this is going to sell you. I mean, I figure if you haven't been sold already, there's nothing new on this album that's going to draw you in. The sound hasn't changed much. It's simply, like I said, gotten distilled down into like its pure essence of sorts, or it's getting there. So if you're not a Disturbed fan, skip it. If you are a Disturbed fan, pick it up because it's good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of the track Another Way to Die while we go into our scrolling credits. So enjoy this, Space Cadets, and I will catch you next time with another episode of the Grim Axis Reviews.